Hello, this video is about Respondus 4.0 and is geared for faculty members. Respondus 4.0 is a program that can be downloaded and used by faculty members to create quizzes in Respondus, and then Respondus will push the quizzes into D2L. It can be also used in the reverse to where the faculty member is able to retrieve quizzes from within D2L, pull them back into Respondus, and then be able to use them for printing in like a Word format or whatnot, because it is kind of hard to print straight from D2L. This is not the Respondus lockdown browser that you might have heard of. It is the same company, but this is something that students themselves would never use. This is just for faculty, and it's really mainly just used for faculty to be able to create quizzes. Now keep in mind that faculty can create quizzes straight from within D2L, build it right within D2L, but Respondus is another way that you can use to build quizzes, and it's kind of like the middleman between a Word document and D2L. So this is what the Respondus 4.0 process would look like. The faculty member would first start by writing the quiz in a Word document, and as I'll demo in a minute, it does have to use correct formatting, and that is probably the most tricky thing with Respondus. If you don't use the correct formatting, it won't come in correctly, and things might not look right or work right within your quiz. Once you have your quiz typed up in Word, you're going to send that into Respondus, and then from within Respondus, you're going to send the document into D2L. Then D2L takes that document and turns it into a quiz. If you were wanting to do the retrieval tool, you would do just the opposite. You would actually start in Respondus, pull it back in from D2L, and then from Respondus, you would be able to print that document in a Word, to have your quiz in a Word document again. So why would someone use Respondus over building the quiz right into D2L? So you can actually do either or, and you can build some quizzes in Respondus and some quizzes right within D2L. There are kind of pros and cons to each. So with Respondus, the tricky thing, like we talked about earlier, is you do have to use this correct formatting that I'll show you in a minute. So that can be a little bit of a learning curve. It is somewhat maybe easier if you have longer quizzes or quizzes that have a lot of questions in them, because you are able to type them very quickly in Word and format them versus having to type them in individually in D2L. Now D2L, building your quiz straight within D2L, the interface itself might be a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about specific formatting. It is potentially more time consuming though, and better for shorter quizzes because you are having to build each quiz at a time, while Respondus, you put all your questions in that one Word document and ship them in. The first step, if you've never used Respondus before, is to actually download the software on your computer. Now, if you've used Respondus before on this particular specific machine, then it should already be there and you won't have to re-download it. It is more than likely not pushed out to your computer though, so you may actually have to download it. It won't be on there by default. Also keep in mind that we have a site license of this, so if you are working from home on a laptop or whatnot, you are welcome to download it on that as well. Now, if you have it downloaded on your office computer and maybe you're using a personal or a Gordon laptop, it won't be on that. When you install this, you're installing it per machine, so you would have to install it on each device that you plan to use it on. So to get to the installation, you would just go to the Gordon website, and if you just search Respondus, it'll pull a web page for you, and then from there you can just click on download Respondus. It's going to ask you to log in with your Gordon email username and password. And then upon doing that, you'll be able to actually download the software. So I'll just want to open this and run it and install this like normal on my computer. As part of the installation process, it will ask, do you want the Respondus equation editor? If you teach math or some sciences and you're creating questions that have equations in them, you may be interested in doing that, but if you're not, then you can just skip that step. So after installation, it's going to ask what your LMS personality is, and of course you're going to want to choose D2L Brightspace. And then it's going to actually open Respondus for you here. It may ask for a password. If you are just downloading this for the first time, it might ask for an installation code, and you're actually going to get that from this web page. This is the activation information. You would just copy and paste in this information. This installation password does change every year, so at the end of July or the beginning of August, you might get that pop up again. You wouldn't have to reinstall the program itself, but you would just come back here and copy this link and put it right back into here to be able to continue to use it. So under the Open or Create section of Respondus, you see that we can do several things. We can actually open a Respondus file that we've already created. We can create a new file right within here, or we can actually even use a test bank network where we can actually use different test banks that might be available and usable within Respondus. In this case, we're actually going to do the import questions and import questions from a Word file. But first, we want to go ahead and type our questions in a Word file to begin with. Okay, in this case, we are now going to type our test in a Word document, and this is going to show you the particular formatting that you have to use, and so make sure that you are using that formatting because it will cause you issues if you don't. So you want to first begin by doing a number 1. You can actually give it a title if you want to, so test 1, quiz 1, whatever. And then you would actually do a 1 period 1 space only. Now when you do that, you notice it's going to try to turn on this auto formatting. You don't want that on at all. That will mess up your formatting. So no auto formatting there. Just 1 period 1 space, and then you type your question. Then you're going to enter down once, and then you're going to do a period 1 space, and then enter your answer choices and continue on with that. Now you can have as many as you want. I have A through D. You can continue on until Z if you want to. But again, just letter, one period, 1 space, and then the correct answer. So to mark your correct answer, you would just put an asterisk right in front of the letter. Now again, no space here, just the asterisk and then directly the letter. So this is how it would look for one question, but keep in mind that you have to format it just like so or it's not going to accept it. So we would continue on. Again, I entered down just once here, and then 2 period 1 space, question, enter down. You can add in as many as you want, and then asterisk here. Now what if I want to have a question with an image associated? So I would build it like normal, just the number of the question, period 1 space in the question, then I would enter down once, and this is where I'm going to insert my picture. So I would just go to insert picture, and then I would pick the image. I can size it down if I want to. And then I would just enter down from there and then add in my answer choices. Remember that I want to undo this automatic formatting because I don't want that in place. And I would just add in my options here. And then just like before, I would put an asterisk in front of the question. So this works great for multiple choice questions or true-false questions. If you want to add in additional questions, things like matching, multiple select, those type things, you can actually add them into Respondus once you get them into D2L. There actually is a way that you can format them here, but there's a lot of you have to remember the formatting and how it wants it done, so that can be a little bit more difficult. So you may want to just build them when you get into Respondus. So at this point, I'm going to just save this file onto my desktop and then import that into D2L, or I'm sorry, into Respondus. Okay, so now back in Respondus, I'm going to choose to import questions from a test file. I'm going to choose to do a docx. I'm going to choose to browse it, and I'm going to pick my test from my computer. And then I'm going to give the document a name. So I would encourage you to name it whatever you're going to name the test, and then the name of the semester, and you might even name the course, just so that you'll be able to find it later on if you're having to look through your Respondus files and you're trying to figure out which one was which, what semester was this quiz used. Then you would do a preview, It would pull in the questions. Notice it didn't give me any warnings. If somehow I had not done something correctly, like maybe I didn't mark a correct answer, or maybe the formatting was weird on one, it would give me a warning here. There is one warning that you don't really have to worry about, and if it says something like a duplicate question title, that is one that you don't have to worry about so much. It might be, I said, what is X, Y, and Z on the title or the first couple of words in my question, and basically what Respondus does is take the first couple of words of your question and make it the question title. So if you have a lot of what is this, what is this, what is this, you'll see that it'll duplicate the question title. It's not duplicating your question though, it's just letting you know that you have, questions that have the same first couple of words. So that one isn't one to really worry about. If it's, no question, no correct answer is marked for this or something like that, those are ones that you really want to look at. And you just want to make note of what numbers they are, because it will tell you question number 3, no question answer marked, or whatever. It'll tell you the number of the question. So you just want to make note of that so that you can go back and fix it in just a second. So then we're going to choose finish. And then it's going to actually bring in this quiz file, and then I'll be able to go ahead and make any edits that need to be edited here. So in this case, maybe something was wrong here, and I want to come and choose this and then edit, and then it's going to display my question number 1. It's going to put it right up here in this, and then I could change something. So like, who is the author of this video? Maybe the answer choice wasn't B, maybe it was A. I can make those changes and then just save those changes there. And so basically it will let me do any edits that need to be done. And so this is a great way for you to be able to edit your questions and make sure that the formatting is indeed correct and things are looking as they should. So this is also where you can add in different types of questions. Multiple choice and true false are the ones that we brought in from Word. There are some other options here that you can choose to do. So I'll show you a couple of those. One is the multi-select. So I would just type in my question wording as normal, and then I would type in my answer choices. Since this is a multiple select, there's more than one correct answer. So I would put a capital X in front of the ones that are acceptable. So in this case, I have 2 correct answers. Down here at the bottom, I need to choose how the credit is going to be given. So in this case, if I do all points or none, they have to choose apple and ant. If they don't choose those, both of them, then they don't get the full credit. If they happen to choose something other than that, they don't get any credit at all. So they have to get this right on the money, or they don't get any credit at all. So all or none in that case. Right, less, wrong is going to take what they would have gotten correct, so apple and ant, and then if they happen to mark cake, it's going to subtract out points for having marked cake, but they will get some basically partial credit is a way to think of it. So then I'm just going to add that into my end of the list, and then I would carry on by adding in more questions. So let's do an ordering question. And this is where you're going to type in the statements that you would like for them to put in order, and then you're actually going to list the statements. But very important, you're going to list them in the correct order. So you're going to basically give the key here by putting them in the correct order itself. So like in this case, I've put them in the correct order, and then D2L will actually randomize them for you when they put it in D2L. Same thing here, credit given, you want to either do all points or none, which is full credit or no credit, right, less, wrong, or equally weighted, where equally weighted is it is what you would consider a true partial credit, because each of these is getting their own point value, so 1/4 of the question. So if I get 2 right, then they get 2/4 of the points. 3 right, I get 3/4 of the point. Right, less, wrong is actually going to add up what they got correctly and then subtract out what they got wrong. So 2 kind of different types of partial credit. Then I'll add that to the end of the list. Also notice if you want to, at any point, change the point value on these, you can do so here, or you can just wait till you have it in D2L. So we'll add that one to the end of the list. And now let's try a matching question. So in this case, we're going to give the actual question wording. It might be something like, match the school with the mascot. And then on one side, we're going to list the schools, and on one side, we're going to list the mascots. Now what we're going to do is associate the correct answers. So UGA goes with Bulldogs, so there's a little blank right here, and I'm going to type in A. This one goes with B, and this one goes with C. Then you can actually choose to preview this. That will help you in seeing how it's going to look in D2L. But basically, this is how it will look. It actually won't be a type box. It'll be a drop down, but this is where they would associate. Okay, so Gordon's going to go with number 3. This one's going to go with number 2, and then 1 or whatnot. And D2L will randomize it for you. So that is how a matching works, and then you can add that one to the end of the list. So let's talk about the long answer and the short answer and the differences between those. So the short answer in Respondus is referring to where you give a question wording and then you put in the acceptable answers, but they do have to be exact. So when we think of a short answer, we often think of something that, you can give an answer and then there's some wiggle room within it. Not here in Respondus. They have to actually type it in perfectly. So for example here, I might have the question, Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet or sat on the tuffet. These would be the only ones that are acceptable. If I said Little Miss Muffet sat down on the tuffet, it would not be counted correctly because it has to be exact. Oftentimes it's not encouraged to use these. If you're going to be doing something like this, you might as well be doing a fill in the blank that I'll show you in a second. But do know that that's kind of how the short answer works in Respondus. So in that case, I'll just clear the form and that will take out all the things that I've added. Now, a long answer is a written response. So in Respondus, they call it a long answer. In D2L, they call it a written response. It is basically what we think of as a essay question. So you would have the question wording here, and then basically the student has to type in their responses. It is a manual grade. It's not going to be something that's going to be auto-graded. It is the only question out of all of these that is not auto-graded. So now let's try our last, which is a fill in the blank. So we're going to type in our question here, and there is a little bit of a trick to formatting this. So the question wording, you're going to put in, when you get to the blank, you're going to put the acceptable answers in brackets. So here's an example. So the name of the college is, and then my blank, what's going to be in the blank is going to be here. So in this case, it would show the name of the college is blank, and the student would have to type in Gordon. Now, what if I'll accept more than one response? I would separate those by commas. So Gordon State College or Gordon State. Okay, so in this case, it is the name of the college is blank, and I'll accept, or D2L will count automatically correct, Gordon, Gordon State College, or Gordon State. If they type in GSC, it's not going to count it correctly. So the trick with the fill in the blank is that you add in all the possibilities you can possibly think of that your student might put in. It does not do spelling, it does not do capitalization. So if I put this as lowercase, then it would still be counted as correct, but it does count things like hyphens. So if I were to say this and the student typed in Gordon State no hyphen, it would actually count it wrong. So you want to be careful about that. And if you want to see how it would look, you would just do a quick preview and it would show you how it would look in D2L. The name of the college is blank, and then they could type in any of these, not all of them now, just any of them, and they would get it correct. So we'll add that to the end of our list. All right, so again, you very well may not be using all these different types of questions. It might just be that you're pulling in your multiple choice questions, but I did want to show you the options here. So now let's go ahead and publish this. So we're going to go to Preview and Publish. We're going to preview this file. And then this is where you're going to go through and make sure that everything is looking correctly, everything is set up correctly, everything is looking as it should, and then because this is letting you see what it looks like right within D2L. So then at that point, we're going to be able to ship this right into D2L. Notice here, you can preview it. You can also do print options. So if you created this and you open it back up for later, and maybe you want to make a print version of this particular exam, you can actually come here to, I only want the exam, or I want the exam with the answer key, or I only want the answer key. And then you could change the settings here of how you want it. And you can go ahead and print preview it, and it would actually create it for you to where you could copy this to clipboard, paste it in a Word document, and be able to print this for a student to hand fill out. What can be helpful with this is if you do exam with answer key and you change the settings and you list the answers at the end of the exam instead of by an asterisk mark. That is helpful if you're going to be manually grading it. Because if you choose exam with answer key, if you notice, this is how the formatting was initially, so it marks the correct answers, so not something you can easily just give to a student to fill out. If you do exam with answer key and you do list answers at the end with the exam, when you do that and print preview, it lets it fillable by the student easy enough, but then that last page is actually going to show you the correct answers, and so that could be something you could easily just keep separate and help you in your grading. But again, that is something that you would be doing if you were printing it, not something you would be doing it if you were creating it for D2L. Before we go any further though, let's look at a couple of settings. Now this is mainly going to be important and helpful to you if you plan to create what is known as a random bank or a random question set, or what D2L calls a question pool. And what that means is, say that you have 10 questions in your exam and you want each student to randomly get 5 questions. You don't want them all getting the exact same questions in the exact same order. So how could you format that to be able to automatically do that? You can actually do that in D2L once you get the test in there, or if you built the quiz directly in D2L and you weren't using Respondus, you could do it that way as well. But I'll show you how you can do it in Respondus since you've already, are kind of here anyways. So you would do that under settings, and again, this isn't required, but you would do that under settings, and you would choose random sections. And then we're going to click on this to create my random sections. So we're going to add a new set of random sections, and I'm going to include the first question to be used in the set, so that would be number 1, and then enter the last question to be used in the set, so that would be number 7, because I have 7 questions here in my quiz. If you had 50 questions, you might do 1 and 50. So basically here what I'm saying is I'm going to include all the questions in my random set, and I want them to randomly get a specific number. So I want them to get randomly 5. So they'll get, out of the 7 questions possible, they're going to randomly get 5. And then here you have to put in the point value, so maybe 1 point each, 5 point each, whatever you really want to call that. Then you want to choose add new set. Notice it'll put an A right here. If you had multiple sets, you might have B, C, D, because you can actually get really fancy with it and have multiple random sections or question pools within your test. But for right now, we'll just do this one. So essentially what we're saying here is when you push this into D2L, you're going to give my students, out of the 7 questions, randomly 5, so that each student might get a different set of 5 in every attempt. Then we'll choose OK. We have that set up, and now we're going to go back to our preview and publish, and we're going to go ahead and publish this thing. So we're going to go to publish, and then we're going to choose Publish Wizard. And now we're going to go ahead and push this to our course to actually begin to push it into D2L. The first time that we use this on this particular machine, we are going to have to connect it to our Brightspace server because it's not already there. Now keep in mind that you're going to have to do this for every machine you use Respondus on. So if you do it on your office computer, you would need to do this. If you maybe go home and download it on your personal computer, you may have to do it there as well. So you have to connect it per device, not per user. So we'll add a new server. We're going to, yes, check for pre-configured settings. You can just name the server D2L if you want to. You can check to save your username and password, and then you're going to run that connection test. Now in running the connection test, you're going to get this pop-up, log into Brightspace using the browser window, and then close the window and say OK to continue. And this is because we now have single sign-on for D2L, and so it is basically authentic. It's watching you authenticate in to be able to access that. So in this case, I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to open a new browser tab, and I'm going to go to D2L. So just at the bottom of the page, I'm going to choose Brightspace by D2L like normal. And then here, like normal, I'm going to choose faculty, staff, and students. Log in here, click on that. And then I'm going to single sign on in. Once I single sign on in, I'm actually done here. I don't have to go to my course or anything like that. I'm able to close out of this browser and then take myself right back to Respondus. So at that point, I'll choose OK because I have done these steps. Then it's going to do a download really quick, so you just want to leave that alone and choose OK. And then you're going to get a pop-up that says to log into your Brightspace browser window and then close the window to continue. And again, this is just authenticating you in because we have single sign-on. So I'll get a little pop-up here, go here and log in like normal. Then I close this again and it should go through and actually start to receive my list. And again, all of that was because we have single sign-on now, so it's just not letting you directly connect. If you're used to using Respondus prior to us having single sign-on, you might see that that step was a little bit different. So then we'll go to next and finish, and then we'll go to next. And then from here, it should actually let us choose our courses and push our test in. So here I would pick whatever course I want to put it in. I would leave it at whatever name it's going to be, and then I would choose next. Then in doing so, it's going to kind of give you a play-by-play of being able to actually go in and go ahead and push that quiz into D2L. All right, so once you see completed successfully, you can choose finish. But before we, exit out of this, you might want to just make for absolute sure that you save this, so that if later you ever want to come in and open a Respondus file that you've used, it will have been saved in your Respondus files area, and you could pull it back in and use it later. So now if we log into D2L and we go to quizzes, we can actually go to our current quizzes and we will find that we actually have that quiz dropped into D2L now. Now keep in mind it is live at this point, so you may want to log in real quick and make it invisible or put in your settings because at this point it actually comes over live. So we'll edit this, and then actually at this point you're going to build the quiz as normal. There are some things, some settings that you don't do in Respondus that once it comes over into D2L you would like to do, but I do want to draw your attention to this. This is that random section that came over. So remember 5 out of 7 that we set up. So in this case, you do want to finish setting it up. You might want to do maybe 1 question per page. You could put a description here if you want to. Then you want to go to the restrictions tab and you want to go ahead and put your start and end dates on the quiz like normal, displayed in the calendar. Come here and put in the time limit for the exam like normal. Really encourage you to choose prevent the student from making further changes, so that after the 30-minute window it gives them 5 extra minutes or whatever you deem that to be, and then it will basically freeze their quiz and make them submit it. So again, under restrictions like normal, start and end date, timing, save that. Go right on into assessment. Make sure to associate it to a quiz. So I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to choose the grade item that it should be associated with. If there isn't a grade item to associate it with, I can just come here and add a grade item really quick. And you can name it, whatever it's supposed to be named, put it in the category it's supposed to go in, and then put the max points that they're supposed to get for that quiz. And then choose the automatic update. So basically here you're making what I call the grading sandwich, the 2 pieces of bread on the bottom and then your grade item in the middle. Then you would want to choose what attempts are going to be allowed. So just 1 attempt, 2 attempts, whatever you're deeming for that. Save that, and then lastly you want to skip right on over to the submission views, and in this case you can choose the default view of what they're able to see as soon as they submit. So maybe as soon as they submit the quiz they don't see anything, except for maybe I let them see their score. If it's going to be auto graded because you don't have any written response questions in there, it would just auto grade it. So then they should be able to see their score but nothing else. Save that in. Now maybe later I want them to be able to come back and see the questions they missed. I could add an additional view and I could say something like after the quiz, and then I could say these are the questions that you missed. And then I would set this to be maybe the day after or later in the day that it is due. So say it's due on the 5th at 8 o'clock, maybe at 9 o'clock or whatnot. I set this view to be available. And the reason why you probably want to do that this way is so that you ensure everybody has submitted the quiz before they can go back and see the questions they missed. That way it keeps it fair for everyone. So then I would choose what I want them to be able to see. So in this view there, yes, they're going to be able to see the questions, and maybe I want them to be able to see the questions they answered incorrectly. I can even choose if I want to show the correct answer. So it might be that I show them the questions they missed and the correct answers, but in this case I don't. I just want them to see the answers, the questions that they answered incorrectly, and then I would save that. So keep in mind we have two views here: the default view, what they see initially right out the gates, and then where they can come back and see the questions that they missed. So at this point, your quiz is now set up in D2L. The good thing that you want to make sure to do to help with the course design is to go to the content area at this point, and you would want to pick whatever module it's supposed to go into, and you would just want to do existing activities, quizzes, and then pick the name of that quiz so that it double links it right here within D2L. So there it is. We choose it, it pulls it in, and then there is our quiz double linked. So that is how you can create a quiz using Respondus.